you with us?
I'm here.
Awesome, man. Well,
we haven't the camera turned on.
Yeah, man. You got to see that. Listen, man. You got your hero there. Look at what he's got in the background, man.
He's got his Nordique shirt.
I did a little homework. I know what's up.
Yeah, I love that shirt. I wish, I was talking to someone. I wish they brought the Nordiques back to Quebec because the fans up there and just the whole atmosphere was so much different.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. That was my favorite team.
Yeah.
Jon, I remember way back in the day, you used to wear the 70. Was it the 72 or the 27 jersey that Hextall? Because Hextall played for the Nordiques, didn't he, for a blink? Or am I wrong by that?
I don't remember. I only remember him on Philadelphia.
For some reason,
no, he was not with.
Did he not play for them?
No,
I don't know why I thought he did. Tells you how good my memory is. So, so Jon, like I said, we've not introduced you. We were just kind of doing some small talk, and then we'll have some fun with you, man. So, so we want to welcome Jon LaPrise, as we were talking about it sort of in our intro. We thought it'd be fun to do a Veterans Day special. We did a Halloween special, Jon. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it. we were just talking about some of the crazy things that he was talking about. This is his hometown, Haverhill, which is where we're from. We'll touch on that for sure. But when he was in the Halloween episode, he mentioned there's been some Bigfoot sightings in Haverhill. Derek and I just completely forget it. We were done for the rest of the show because we just joke about stuff like that all the time. We like people that we know that we call them. Where they have aneurysms and stuff. So anyway, so we thought it'd be fun. Both my family, Derek's family, a lot of our friends, a lot of our mutual friends, the three of us that we probably all know together have served. And Jon, as we started this podcast and mentioned it a couple times, we were going through like, who do we think would be kind of fun? And Jon's name kept coming back to me. He's been in the service. He's been all over the world, and growing up, he was big into music and all kinds of stuff, and obviously served the country. So and now lives in Alaska. So it's like you checking all the boxes for things that are just interesting. And you got to tell Derek that no, Derek, it's not always midnight in Alaska. So we'll touch that in a second. But So welcome to the Three Guys podcast, Jon. We're so glad you're able to join us. So Jon, why don't you share with us your experience, just to kind of as a little bit of introduction, a little bit about yourself and obviously your history serving this country.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited to do a little homework and enjoyed the podcast you guys have been doing. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm honored to be on. So yeah, going back, Brian, grew up with you and your brother in Haverhill, and that was always a fond experience to look back on. I didn't do too well in school. I wasn't killing it. I went to NECO after high school, and I took cycling and gym. I took weight training. So I wasn't really getting it down with the academics, and just kind of wandering around. So I'd always been a fan of the military, always wanted to do that. And so I made the decision to go in, and I actually got some good guidance before they go in. They said, hey, try to find a job you can do that you can take, experience out, after you get out. Because I wanted to do all the cool stuff, jump out of airplanes and run and gun. But someone said, try to do that. So I was pretty fortunate, and I got into communications, satellite, and radio in the military. But I also got to do all the same stuff, jumping out of airplanes and creeping around in the woods and doing all the cool things too. So, so I joined the military after a couple of years at NECO, and that's really what brought me to Alaska. Took me all over the place, and I got orders to come up to Alaska. And I called my dad and I said, "Hey, I got to go to Alaska." And he said, "A lot of guys go up there and stay." I said, "Yeah, whatever. I'll see you in a few years, right?" That conversation took place near 30 years ago. So.
So the bus isn't leaving just yet.
Right.
So before we get going, we like to have a little bit of fun. Derek's got some pick ones for you. I always like to kind of tell some funny stories if we have a little bit of one. And we have a million that we could probably go on. So there's a couple. And Derek, you may not know these. So one of the stories is, and you can maybe tell me, Jon, if true or false. Okay, ready? We'll start that way. So true or false, you once got thrown out of a classroom for wearing two different kinds of sneakers.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I had a collection of Converse All-Stars, right? how can I be more obnoxious with this? So I put on 2 different colors, and yeah, the teacher, she never, she called my parents about that. She never called to say my grades were low or anything like that, but she called to tell them I had 2 different color sneakers. So Mrs. Peel.
And that was a reason to get thrown out of class? I think that's ridiculous.
I guess so. She was a little sensitive. I may have rearranged her class once or twice, so there was a little history.
Well, I can understand if you went to Central, where I went to, with the Central Catholic High School. You did something like that, wore different sneakers, stuff like that. They'd want to throw you in, detention. But I mean, yeah, it's just shocking. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard of getting for 2 different sneakers.
So Jon, if you listen to any of our early episodes, in a couple maybe more early episodes, we were talking about Haverhill and Bradford. And Derek, I want you to know you're not the first person that I ever met that came from Bradford. It was the first rich people I ever met with the LaPrises. They were living in Bradford.
Uptown.
We go through this all the time with everyone about Bradford. I mean, I had my own Bradford license, and people joke about, well, it's not Bradford, it's part of Haverhill, blah, 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 blah. I said, I only do it now just to aggravate you people, because you guys get everyone gets so aggravated, the fact that between Haverhill and Bradford. I mean, I don't even live in Bradford anymore, or Haverhill, whatever you want to call it, but it fires people up just to get that whole Haverhill Bradford thing.
Well, once you get out of Alaska and you meet people from that area, everybody's from Boston. Hey, where are you from? Boston.
Well, no, it's funny you say that, right? Because when I go to Vegas, someone's like, where are you from? I'm like, Boston. I'm not going to say from like Salisbury. They're like, where the hell's Salisbury?
Right. It's just an easy reference. But if I know, I say, I know you're not from Boston. Where are you really from?
Yeah. Well, see, you would know.
Well,
yeah, because.
So Jon, we were at spring break in the 90s, and we were in Derek. You remember we were in a cab, and the guy was probably from South Boston, and he's like, "Where are you guys from?" "We're from Boston." And next, where about Haverhill? I think he almost threw us out of the cab. You're not from Boston.
Well, if you come across someone who's from this area, I wouldn't say that. I could say, "Hey, I'm from Salisbury," because they would most likely know where that is. But if you tell someone from Kentucky, like, "Oh, where you from?" "Oh, from Salisbury," like, where the hell is that?
Just give them a point of reference. They're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, Derek,
what are you? 6 hours behind us?
4.
4. Oh, okay. Okay. It's not as bad then.
No, it works out in my favor, so we're good.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So, Jon, let me ask you something. Are you like, do you watch movies?
Oh, well, yeah. I love
Okay.
movies.
All right, good. Because, when we do these pick ones, I usually ask ahead of time, like, what people's, what they like and don't like. Because if I start bringing out movies, they're like, I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. So now that I know that, we'll start a pick. It's called Pick One. Basically, you pick. So I think you've listened to our episodes before. So, like, first one, like Platoon or Red Dawn?
Oof. So Red Dawn was my goal, to be that militia guy. Still my goal. But
There's still time.
Yeah.
You can be the Patrick Swayze character.
Yeah. And Platoon was the first realistic military movie that came out. They're all pretty decent now, but back then it was all, Chuck Norris, firing from the hip. And Platoon was a pretty accurate one. So that's a tough one, man. I'm going to say Red Dawn just because, I'm going to live the Patrick Swayze dream.
Yeah, well, I figured, you're a military guy. We start off with a different military question first.
Like it.
Yeah. So, risky business or weird science?
Weird science.
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm the same way with that. We'll go into the horror movies. Halloween or Friday the 13th?
No,
now, let me say this. I'll be the first Halloween and the first Friday the 13th. Oh, if you want to say the second Friday the 13th when Jason made his appearance.
Yeah. I'm going to go Friday the 13th just because I got more experience with that, hanging out at a friend's house, watching it. You're not supposed to be watching it downstairs. So.
Oh, and the hockey mask, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I remember, and I'm sure we'll mention your sister and your brother, but one of the things I remember Paul having, Jon, you remember when Paul built the Freddie Glove? he replicated the Freddie Glove.
He had some fascination with death. I don't know if he told you, but he got a casket, like a costume, like prop, and he put it in the back of his pickup truck and drove around town.
Yeah, he's next on the show. We have to have him on, man. He's got such a crazy side to him.
So here's one that we always ask a lot of people. Is Goonies or Stand By Me?
Oof. That's another good one, man. You're pulling out the gems tonight. I'm going to go Goonies just because I think I like the a little bit more lighthearted. But Stand By Me was a classic, classic coming of age movie. So good questions, man.
All right, let's go with how about another? We'll go back to the Halloween type of theme here. Lost Boys or Silver Bullet?
I did not see Silver Bullet, so I'll have to put my vote in the Lost Boys category.
Really? That's a classic too. That's a classic. All right. All right, let me swing over here. We'll go back to this. How about Amityville Horror or the Poltergeist?
Oof. Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, huh? I like that. And we'll end with one more here. I'll try to get a funny one here. Let me see what I have here. All right. Weekend at Bernie's or Uncle Buck?
Uncle Buck.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's rude. He's crude. He's family.
There you go.
I still gotta rewatch that Weekend at Bernie's to understand the gist of why they're dragging them all over the place. I know you tried to explain it to me on an earlier show, but
oh my god, you're right. It was on the other day. It was hilarious.
So Don, let's get started, man. There's so much about you, not just where you've come from, but what you do now and the industry that you work in that's out of control right now, all over the place. I think all over the world. But so you grew up. We mentioned Haverhill. I always got to specify, John, where Haverhill is, because we have listeners. I looked at the stats. We have listeners all over the world. Kazakhstan. The three guys is starting a trend in Kazakhstan. So, so you grew up in Haverhill. We met obviously growing up in Haverhill playing hockey. And one of the stories, and I was telling Derek this the other day. And I don't know if you told me this or someone told me this, but you used to play street hockey with Keith Kachuk. Is that true? Is that true or false?
That's true. That's true. But I played independent hockey with him on the North Shore Raiders. So yeah, funny story. Keith, back then you could see he had it, right? He was the only shot that I ever, winced at. And he had it going on. But I'll tell you, I ran into Keith up here in Alaska. So, most, I'm telling the story. Yeah, I played hockey with Keith Kachuk. Everybody's like, oh, cool. So right at September 11th, 2001, the St. Louis Blues and I can't remember who, the Sharks, were going to do an exhibition game here, right? So the Blues had come up and they were practicing, and then September 11th happened. So, obviously they weren't flying anywhere. So I found out, he was down at the rink. So I was like, I'm going to go say hi, right? I'm friends with Keith Kachuk, right? So I run down to the rink and I go in there and I'll tell you what, he didn't remember me for anything, right? He was like, oh yeah. It was pretty funny. I can't dog him too much. He's done so many things, but yeah, my life story, I'm buddies with Keith Kachuk just right out the window. And
it's funny. I was telling Brian that it's the same thing. We played an exhibition game. And that was my sophomore year, and I was rotating goalies, and we were playing down right in the north end where the rink is over there. And Keith Kachuk was playing for Malden Cal at the time, and he took a shot on me, and he scored, and I'm reacting, and they're already back at the faceoff circle. I mean, that's how hard and quick his shots were. It was unbelievable, and it's first time playing with someone, at that experience, especially as a sophomore. And this guy's a senior, and he was destined for the NHL.
Yeah, no, I remember I went in there. He was on his skates, and I'm sitting there in my shoes, and he's a good foot and a half taller than me. So, but yeah, he was an impressive player. He always played hard, played gritty. So I always liked it. But yeah, they gave me a St. Louis Blues pin. They were like, "Thanks for coming by."
Pick up your free toast on the way out.
We'll add you to the mailing list.
Yeah. No, so yeah, but yeah, Keith was a good dude. I played with his brother as well on the same team, so it was a good squad.
That's cool.
So you listen, John. You joined the military. I didn't know you went to Northern Essex, where both Derek and I went as well, right after high school. But you joined the service. Did you join the service directly after that? And can you talk a little bit about sort of your path from when you were at Northern Essex and then making your decisions from there?
Yeah, so this was a lot of parental intervention, right? So when I say I went to NECO, I ran over there. I played pool out there with with the guys. Remember the pool table out there in the common area? I wasn't into it, right? And So I think I dropped out like after 3 semesters and, you know, rolling in whenever and just getting up whenever. So my dad sat me down. He said, listen, bud, you got 3 choices. He said, go back to school and, you know, keep living here. He said, go get a job, you know, and you can pay rent or go get a place. He said, or join the military. And I had always wanted to join the military. So it was just like a snap. That's what I'm doing. So that's what started that trip. And you know, to be honest, it was the best thing for me, right? I wasn't going to do anything in school just because it wasn't my motivation at the time. You know, I don't want to say it's the school of hard knocks, but I needed a good wake up call, right? So doing the military, getting that experience, getting that discipline was gigantic. So really, it was a pivotal point. And I went back to college later. You know, I got my degree later, you know, as an adult, but that was absolutely what I needed to do. And it's a good thing I didn't come back to Haverhill after I got out of the military because, you know, I'm not gonna say I'd get in trouble, but I feel like I might have fallen back into that same kind of not really going anywhere routine. I think I came back to visit once and I went down to one of the bars, you know, one of the places on downtown, and dude, it was the same people sitting around the bar that were sitting around the keg party fires at Beer Can Alley. So I was glad I made that decision, you know, change gears and get something going.
So what in the military, like, you know, what makes them, because you hear people, once they go in the military, it makes them a better person. And not just from, you know, it molds them into a man. Can you explain what it did for you?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, one of the first things they do in the training is they kind of break you down the individual, right? So we all go in there, we're thinking we're tough, we're thinking we're cool. And they break down the individual and they rebuild with that team mindset and the discipline you need, right? So they kind of take all the attitudes and all, you know, the guys with the bad attitudes and then the guys with, you know, the meek guys, right, that aren't ready to step up. They kind of break everybody down and bring everybody back up on a level plane. And depending on what your path in the military is, you know, there's always that discipline element, you know, doing what you have to do, being where you need to be, and, you know, and just getting it done. So is amazing after the military, the amount of people you meet that just don't have that ability or just they can't throw that switch and get it done when it needs to get done. So I really learned how valuable those skills were, you know, in the real world.
So one thing that's to note, not only did you join the military, but from the beginning you went into special forces, correct?
No, not quite special forces. So I went to, I was in a rapid deployment Pacific Theater unit. So we did a lot of cool stuff, right? We jumped out of airplanes. I climbed glaciers, you know, a lot of fast rope from helicopters. So we did a lot of cool stuff, but I don't want to do that stolen valor thing.
Right. We'll touch on that. So go ahead. Talk about joining and sort of where your path took you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And like I touched on earlier, you know, I got good guidance to say, hey, you know, find something you can do that really you can take out when you know, use in the real world. So I did that communications, and I learned, you know, RF radio, satellite communication, secure cellular stuff. So I had a really good foundation. One of the downsides to that is I went to basic training. I was all excited. I was in good shape. And then I went to this commo school, and there was no, of all the military schools I went to, that one had the least amount of discipline, right? It was kind of like college in your military clothes. So my edge came down, right? And right after that, I was supposed to go to some other schools, and it was twice as hard because I was out of shape, you know, wasn't motivated. So it created a new challenge. But now I had that skill, and it would come back and be positive later. So I ultimately got orders to come to Alaska, the 501st Airborne, and I was put in charge of what they call battalion communications. So when the units were out in the field, I had to go out in between them so that the headquarters units could communicate with them. So it was retransmission. So what made that a cool job is that I had to go out there and sneak and hide and be out there by myself to make sure that everybody could talk, which made it a really cool job. So we were attached to the scout platoon. So we went out there and did a lot of good things.
And Jon, give us a little bit of time frame when this was happening, when you were serving, when you started.
Question. Yeah, so I joined in '92. I did the delayed, means you sign the contract, but you don't leave right away. And then, so it was summer of '92. I went to Fort Bliss, Texas, in the middle of the summer to do basic training. That was obnoxious. I got to airborne school just about Christmas that same year. And then just after Christmas is when I got orders to come to Alaska. So I was in Fort Benning, Georgia. It was some hot spell. It was like 75 degrees. I get off the plane in Alaska, February. And when you run in that cold, everything freezes, like the sweat on your eyebrows. So everybody had these frost eyebrows, and oh man, I didn't know what the hell I got into, and it put me back on the plane.
You just described Salisbury Beach in February.
Yeah, dead of winter. Yeah, free Botox for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and this is such a cool experience. I think I kind of dreaded it at first, like, I'm going to Alaska, it's going to be crappy. And, still to this day, I'm not a big hunter or fisherman, but that's really what keeps a lot of guys up here is they want to be a part of the outdoor activities. But, I kind of took a different path, do a lot of snow machining and a lot of, skiing and just, different activities you can do in the snow. But back on the military track, ultimately I served 3 years here, and we did a lot of cool things. Like I said, we went to glacier school, jumped out of airplanes, did the fast rope, did a lot of training deployments. We were put on a plane once to actually go to Bosnia in the middle of that, but they turned us around halfway there. So that was my scrape with glory. And it came time to at the end of my tour to make a decision if I was going to stay in or get out. And I won't bore you too much with the details, but they do promotions based on points. And when they need people, they lower the points in your job or they raise them up. Well, they decided to put a bunch of jobs under one heading, so the points were unachievable. So I was kind of in this stuck position where I wasn't going to get promoted for a long time. So that's when I made the decision to get out and get to work.
So it's funny, Jon, you say just jumping out of an airplane. It's almost like the guy last week saying, there's sightings of UFOs over our houses, man. That's, I just think that's a whole, the rush. Can you kind of give your first time doing it? Can you try to compare it to something that we would appreciate in terms of doing that? Derek's thinking right now, because I know Derek. He's thinking, he jumped out of an airplane?
I don't even take my seatbelt off flying in a plane. So,
well, I remember coming home from airborne school, and the flight attendant looked at me and she goes, are you worried about flying? I said, no. I said, I just haven't landed in a plane in a while. But the school was super cool. And of course, you're reevaluating life the whole time. You're sitting in that airplane thinking, why didn't I just go to class at NECO? It just, I should be doing something. And I'll tell you a funny story that I was the second jumper in the door. The first jumper was a female lieutenant who was about that tall. And of course, if she goes, I got to go because I can't the door. So with the static line jumps, you jump out of the airplane, and there's really nothing graceful about it because the wash prop blast just throws you, and not down, but that way, right? So it takes 200 feet for the chute to deploy, and you're just kind of getting spun around. And then finally, once it stops, that's when everything's kind of silent and serene, and then you're under the canopy, traveling to the ground. And now we would do some jumps where we jumped out the tailgate, right? You see some of those in the movies, and those were a lot of fun. Someone said that's like stepping into a movie screen, and that was exactly right. Just stepping into a movie screen. It was pretty slick.
Yeah, you hope the canopy opens, otherwise it's a long.
We had a reserve parachute, and the instructors would tell us, if the canopy doesn't open, you have the rest of your life to figure it out.
Yeah, short time frame.
Exactly. We didn't when we would jump. The highest I jumped from was 3,000 feet because it was, you see these guys doing the halo and stuff like that, or 25,000 feet. We never did anything like that. What I did was scary. Was we would come in low, so I jumped from 600 feet once, and that's scary because they're like you said. Time something goes wrong. So.
Yeah. You almost want to say I'd rather be higher, right? Because just because you feel like you're lower, you get less time to make that instant decision.
Exactly right.
So Jon, when you're going through a lot of this training, I can think, what was the movie? The Kyle movie when he's in the SEALs training.
Oh yeah.
You kind of see it a little bit there. How accurate is that when you're going through this intense training? Is it really not a physical thing? Is it more of a mental thing? Is it both? Is it something you can't really explain when it comes to getting through that kind of intensity?
Yeah, good question. So when you do the basic training in these military, boot camp for Marines, and there's some degree of stress, and actually the society has pushed on this training environment to be less stressful, which is really kind of amazing, because the whole concept of training is to have you operate in stress. But when you go into some of these other specialty schools, like the SEAL school, their goal, is to put you under maximum stress and see how you respond. Fortunately, I never went through, any training like that. We did cold weather and survival training, which was pretty intense. You kind of always have this feeling like, you could quit, but then it's over. So I never did anything as intense as, SEAL training or BUDS, but a lot of the cold weather and the survival training and things that you had to make through were pretty slick.
I have a question, and this is like a little bit different because, my father, he was in Vietnam, and one of the things he said is like, when he came back from Vietnam, it wasn't pleasant. Like, people weren't, hey, like this. Then 9/11 comes around and everyone's becoming patriotic. Hey, thank you for serving. Thank you for serving. Have you noticed that? Where, because his big pet peeve is like, what? I am glad that people say it, but why? When I came back from Vietnam, it wasn't there. It took 9/11 for some people to realize, hey, people have served. In the military, even the NFL. Like the NFL for years would charge the military to perform or to give, like, it's like, it bothers me because now everyone starts with this. And I'm not saying this is not patriotic, but it's just like, it feels like people are forcing it. And I'm like, wait a second, are you really trying to do that, or because you think it's PC to do it?
Right. Yeah. Good observation. And I remember, because, our parents are of that generation, just how crappy those guys were treated. And it was a bummer that it took something like 9/11 to bind it back together. And for a while there, it was true. I think it was heartfelt. But as time went on, I think it really took that shape of PC, like you're talking about. And, I have a big problem with words, people using terms and words that don't belong. And the word hero, nobody has any clue what that means anymore, because that's just been slapped on everything. So guys that are legitimately heroes, that kind of gets washed away because that term is just thrown around.
Yeah. No, it's a shame because what, anyone who's served in the military, you've given up your life, you give up your life, and because you're serving, and you don't know where you're going to go, and you could be sent into the worst battles, or you could be whatever, but it doesn't matter. You're still in the military. You still give up your time, and you should be given proper respect. But I just think that I like to see people do it because they legitimately believe that, hey, what. I appreciate what you did, and that's great. That's what you should do it. But every time, sometimes they do it, it's just like, yeah, thank you. Every time you do it, and it drives my father bananas, and I don't blame him. him.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to talk. There's probably no perfect time to touch on it, but just talking about recognizing these, people like yourself, and there's so many people. We can go on the list of people that we know that serve, but. You touched on sort of stolen valor, and how sort of that's something that, not something you're happy about. Maybe touch a little bit, because not a lot of people may not know what that is. I just feel within the last couple of years feel like I've heard about it. Maybe touch on what that is and how it hits your radar.
Yeah, good. So essentially the definition is somebody claiming that they're either in the military or have accomplishments in the military that they did not achieve. Right. In the military, you see guys putting ribbons on their Class A uniforms that they didn't earn. I bumped into a guy who bought, they call him a PX soldier. You buy it at the post exchange. He had a Vietnam era ribbon, and he was my age, so he got busted pretty quick. That's kind of a low grade, but in the civilian world, as you noted, everybody's excited about special forces. So people see the kind of the accolades, right? Like, and they start to say, I want that. So they'll put on a uniform. What I see the most of is guys that went in the military and did some, I don't want to say insignificant task, but some low grade task. So they can speak the language. They know the jargon a little bit. So they know enough to get by. So you put them in a situation, they can have a conversation, and somebody might not be able to detect it. I think it's the guys that have never been in the military that try to bamboozle, and they might get away with it for a little bit with their close circle, but somebody that knows better. And I think it's a low character move. So it bothers me.
I think I first saw it because it was on a movie, a Vince Vaughn movie, I think, or something. And that's first where I saw it, where they were making a joke of it. I was like, well, it's really not something. And no one takes a joke better than you, from what I remember, on certain things that I like to laugh. So, but but it's good to recognize, especially because of what you people do to fight for us every day, and not just military, but obviously firemen and police and all that stuff to put their lives in danger every day. It's not.
Yeah. To circle back on that a little bit, I was actually, someone tried to give me a hard time once because I wasn't in combat. And I said, you're absolutely right. And I said, it's either a blessing or a curse. The military, the guys that have been signed up in the military in the mid 2000s, they know nothing but conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I wrote a check, and signed my name on it for my life. And where they took me was where they took me. By God's grace, I didn't have to go into combat, but I was emotionally and physically ready to do that.
Yeah, but you also been training, right? I mean, you just said that right before. You jumping out of planes.
Yeah.
You could have died from that. I don't do it every day. That's not something I do. I don't jump out of planes. I hope if I do, what am I signing up for? You know what I'm saying? So you're putting your life on line just for jumping out of planes, right? You're training. You can die in simple things like that regular people just don't do every day.
Yeah. And it does happen. It happens pretty regularly. There were guys that didn't make it, in training, or, they do what's called a confidence jump. So if somebody burns in, their parachute doesn't open anywhere in the airborne community of the military, everybody, no matter what you're doing across the country, they get up and jump the next day. So nobody has time to think about that and get it in their head. That could happen. So I did a couple of confidence jumps because somebody else, unfortunately, didn't make it.
Yeah. So
Jon, touch. I want to get into other stuff other than the military, and there's so much. I want you to talk a bit about how your experience in the military sort of led to the success that you are experiencing now. So touch on that. Then I want to touch on one other thing about the Alaska piece.
Well, the bottom line with how it translates is just that it has to be done. If nobody else does it, you're going to have to do it. So at the end of the day, I try to treat all of the tasks, whether it's personal or professional, with that attitude that it has to be done. So you take that military discipline of, as simple as I got to get up at X hours and I've got to get this done by this time and be here by this time. It has really served me well. My wife, I love her, but I don't know how she gets anywhere. I have no idea how she 2 minutes before she's supposed to be there, her face lights up like, oh, I'm late. And it drives me nuts. But, just those basic understandings of, discipline in life are really served me well.
Now, building on that, how does it, the military obviously makes you become a leader. It helps you with your leadership skills. Yep. So I'm sure if you decide, when you want to go out there, and I think, some of the stuff you've accomplished now in the bio sent over, I'm sure that's been a bonus to become a leader and to develop your own businesses and do like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You'll see time and time again, just in a basic group environment, very few people want to step up and take charge and say what needs to be done. Right. So yeah, in that context, you're exactly right. I can look back on many occasions where, people stepped back. They didn't want to be in the limelight, or they didn't want to, be responsible for what's happening. And you're right. That's where the leadership, you step in and like, this needs to be done. Let's get to work, assign tasks and move out.
Yeah, my mom and I, my mom, obviously, Sally, we were talking tonight about this. There's a local high school that's having issues with discipline. And I told her, I said, that they should do is send those kids to maybe a military school. Maybe that could help a little bit with discipline, because that you do, as you mentioned, and you hear about it a lot, that's one of the number one things that comes out of it, making you a better person.
There's one up here. There's one up here that I know a lot of kids that have gone to, and it's got a pretty good success rate. It's a good eye opener.
So let's kind of go back to Alaska, and Jon, I apologize. I don't remember your wife's first name, but you met her in Alaska. So maybe touch on kind of another phase of your life and how it started in Alaska.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela. Her name is Angela. So I met her probably, in 94. So I was just trying to put a time frame on it. So we met in 94 and we started dating, and, we got married in 95. Well, I was still in the military. So she got to be a military spouse. And so So she thought I was her ticket out, right? So she's like,
getting me out of Alaska.
I'm going to go travel the world with this military guy. And I said, nah, let's stay.
Wasn't the plan.
Warm weather dreams broken.
Yeah. So that was off the table. And it was stressful for her because, you know, even though I wasn't deployed to combat situations, we were a high activity unit. So we were gone a lot training. And it's kind of funny, quick side note. When I got out of the military, I went to, you know, I had thoughts of joining the police force, right? So I went down and took the test. I made it through 3 phases of testing. And she finally kind of, you know, got the gumption. And she said, listen, I was married to a paratrooper, you know, married to you while you were in the airborne. She goes, I don't want to be married to a cop. So I literally had to go back to APD, Anchorage Police Department, and say, hey, my wife won't let me be a cop. So yeah, almost had a different career path altogether. But yeah, so, you know, once I got out of the military, we had the opportunity to get some, family has some housing up here. So we got a chance to take over that and had our first son in Jordan in 1997. So we just kept digging bigger roots.
Do you see yourself? So do you actually go more Alaska question? So, and Derek, you might be able to ask this better than me because you're more of a TV show than I. I feel like there's at least one Alaska show out there. I know there's more than one, but what's the one or two that you're like, yes, watch? If you watch that, that's a good depiction of life in Alaska.
There was one, and actually one of my friends was on the show. Is the Alaska Railroad.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw a guy, Gene Lewis. He's a real good friend of mine, but that one pretty well caught what's going on in that environment. So I worked in telecommunications for 22 years, and one of the projects we had is we put fiber cable through Alaska on the railroad right of way. So I became like a de facto railroader because we were out there so much. And so that show captured that lifestyle pretty well.
Now, is that the ice truckers or is that a different one?
A different one. Yep.
Different one. Okay.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah. So, Jon, after you got out of the military, what was your ultimate goal, and what did you end up doing? Obviously, you did become a police officer. So, what was your next step?
Yeah, so you know, it was to take that guidance and take this communications training that I had and go find a job. You know, I never really had immediate aspirations for leadership or doing my own business. It was find a job, right? So I was able to find a job with a company up here that did microwave transmission, and you know, started to practice my craft and my trade. And a few years into that, I had the pretty cool experience to bump into a guy that did fiber optics. And he said, hey, you know, I like the work you're doing on this project over here. Have you ever thought about it? I said, no, you know, I have never even, you know, never dealt with it. So he brought me in and he trained me up. And that actually led to, you know, the next 12 or 13 years of my life working in fiber optics. And, you know, that same project that I talked about. And then I had the opportunity through that time span to go from, you know, not necessarily the bottom of the barrel, but pretty close. And through time and experience, work my way up to leadership positions. And by the time I left Telecom in 2014, I ran a company called Chiniga Global Telecom, and we did microwave and tower work on the slope, and we served quite a big area. So it was through that span, I had a lot of opportunities to get leadership experience, to just learn in the industry and get a lot of things that touch a lot of things that you normally wouldn't touch, you know, just in a regular career path.
So, Jon, did you pick up your telecommunications in school? Was that military? Like, what drove you into that industry?
That was the military training. So, you know, they call it a commo guy. So, basically, my job was I was responsible for communications, but I could also, you know, we went to school for RF engineering, RF training, basic electronics. What else? We did SATCOM, you know, so satellite communications. We worked on what's called secure cellular. It was a product that was kind of the cellular communications in its infancy that the military used. So there was a lot of, you know, solid foundation things that when I got out, I could translate into different opportunities. One of the things that it's been pretty good at is stretching my limit. So you look at a job description, and you know, somebody might say, I don't have all of that. I'll say I got 25% of it, and I can work my way to the rest. So I threw the net out there pretty far a couple of times, and then a couple of times it didn't work, but a few times it put me in a good spot.
So I see here that as part of your little bio here, you were part of a motorcycle stunt team.
Yeah.
What was that?
So I mean, as a kid, I was always doing tricks on the bike. Was another hobby that I loved, and I always wanted motorcycles, right? So I got a motorcycle in the military before I got married, and it was about, let me see, it was like early 2000s. I just bumped into a couple of guys, and I don't know if you remember. There was kind of this underground swell of motorcycle stunts, right? When you're interested in something and you go find it on the internet, you think everybody sees it, but it was a kind of small little group, right? So we met a couple of guys up here, and of course the riding season's short. You're 5 months if you're pushing it, right? So I met a couple of guys that were like, "Hey man, you want to push this? You want to try that?" And we started to see some of the things going on in the lower 48, and we said we can do that. We just wanted to, be cool. We just wanted to look cool riding wheelies. What started, with a handy cam, a shaky handy cam, filming each other riding down the street, ultimately turned into a business. So we saw that people were building, putting together films, and we said, let's do that. So we went out to find out how much, somebody to do that cost. It was outrageous. So we learned to do it ourselves. Same when it came to doing the editing. Same when it came to building, merchandise, product, and swag. So by the time we disbanded in 2007, we were a legitimate LLC. We had coverage insurance for our performances. It was no joke. We went from a couple of knuckleheads tearing up the street to a legit business.
And you don't do it. You stopped in 2007. Is that when you?
Yeah. It was like if you can picture it like a rock band, right? They're all a person, right? Everybody wants to be in front. Everybody wants to be the star, and it was ultimately imploded. So I broke my leg in 2004, so that kind of took me out of the riding side. So from then on, I did the business side of it, and emceed the shows.
Do you have anything on other? Is there stuff online from the group?
They're on YouTube. Yeah, on YouTube, there's some footage from Arctic Attack. So YouTube was really just kind of in its infancy when we were started, right? So there's some late footage of our guys on YouTube. But yeah, if you search Arctic Attack, Alaska motorcycle, because you'll get helicopter, military aviation stuff. You search Arctic Attack on YouTube, you'll find it.
So Derek, I love my stories, right? I got to tell them about Jon right now. So again, going way back, I don't know if you would say, hey, he built a half bike, or one of your friends did, or there was a half bike. You and your brother built a half bike, right? And they show up at the house, at our house, Derek, like skin to the bone, like no skin on their legs.
Oh.
So his adventure started very early on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was just always something I wanted to do, is push the limit. And someone said to me once that knew me here, they said, how did you go from jumping out of airplanes to riding wheelies? And I'm like, that seems like a pretty short trip to me, but.
Yeah, I guess so.
So Jon, let's talk about, you mentioned your leadership responsibilities. Maybe talk a little about your career evolution coming out of the telecommunications industry.
Yeah, super. So, by that time, like I said, I had gotten to a position where, I was in significant positions. I was in my early 40s. So, by then, I commanded a pretty decent salary, and I got tripped up by a non-compete agreement. I don't know if you guys are familiar with never had any experience with that. But a company that I worked for felt that I was courting one of their clients. It was actually ConocoPhillips. And they pulled the trigger on the non-compete. And that just, I didn't know what to do. I was like a deer in the headlights. I went to my lawyer and, we drafted up some documentation to, put the fire out. I went to him a year later and said, hey, could we have fought that? He said, yeah. but it felt bad then. But, it ultimately, it happened for a reason. So I had always been interested in real estate. And, so I went out and got my real estate license, but there was a lot of fear of stepping off that ledge because, if you come from a salary, going to a commission world is just very stressful. So I really never fully committed. So I'd always try to have some kind of work, something going on that would bring in a regular paycheck. During that time frame is when I started the contracting company, which solved that problem. And I would still do an occasional deal on the side, a house sale. But it wasn't until just before the COVID shenanigans that I got in fully, which would seem like a strange time, but it just ended up working out pretty well for me. And they do commercial leasing and residential leasing and sales. So there was a lot of business at that time, strangely enough. But yeah, there was a little window in there where, I kind of flopped around from job to job just because I was now, once the non-compete was clear, I'm now 40 something years old. I command a particular salary. So people are like, well, we can save money. We're going to hire a younger guy. We're going to pay him $40,000 or $50,000 less. So, and then having been out of away from the industry for a little while, in leadership, you can afford to do that. But when you start to get into some technical telecom stuff, that industry changes, like a heartbeat. The things that I was doing 15 years ago required a full building. Now it's, a Cisco router on a desktop. So yeah, so it was difficult to try to stay competitive in that marketplace.
So I know as a salesperson, I could never go from sales to telecommunications. I'm just not smart enough to do it, Jon. So how was it going? How was it going from the technical end of it to the sales piece? And, both Derek and I enjoy working with people. We love it every day. We do.
Oh, yeah.
How was it? So you go from that tech piece to interact with people in sales. How was that transition?
Yeah, good question. So you remember I mentioned one of those throwing the nets out there, right? Yeah. So I was a projects and engineering manager for a company, and kind of overran the engineering department. And then we had a meeting, and they said, hey, we don't really have a marketing department. We need to build that. I can do that. Doing the duck. I was all cool up top, but paddling like hell underneath. And, they gave me the opportunity. So with that opportunity, I still maintained everything I was doing on the engineering side. But now I started to develop marketing skills. I went to different courses. I became a master networker. So I went to networking courses. You guys are probably familiar with BNI, Business Network International. Yeah. So I was part of BNI. I went to Toastmasters, my counter. And so I started to get a lot of experience and, just take, what I felt was a social personality and putting some direction. And so that I think would be the best segue from going from telecom to a straight sales.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the salespeople some of the best salespeople that I work with don't come from a sales path. They come from every which way, but not one like I happen to come from liberal arts and journalism and marketing, and then I went through the sales. But some of the best salespeople do come from technical and not non-sales backgrounds. So it's a myth that you have to be this historical a people person in order to be successful in sales. It's not true.
Yeah, it was a complete, I don't want to call it a fluke, but just it wasn't a normal path. And I just saw that opportunity, and I was fortunate enough to grab it, and also fortunate enough to, be given that opportunity at the same time.
So separately from your professional life, you obviously played sports and athlete. What are you doing now? Are you still weight training, or what are you doing now physically and mentally to keep yourself together?
Yeah. So, back when I was out of work, I started building a home gym, and I literally, with non-weights type of stuff, I think I had a couple of 25-pound dumbbells. So I went and got a 400-pound tire to flip. I got some marine rope. And over time, as I started working again, I built an incredible home gym. I'm not bragging, but I don't need to go anywhere, right? So that's my everyday routine. I've actually got my wife. We go down there every morning. We start our day doing a good workout. So still doing that. I still play hockey. I still play in the men's league. A little slower, but it's still, when I first got up here, I played in some competitive leagues, and now we're just kind of the games are 10 o'clock at night. So, I mean, can't get too crazy about it.
There was in 2007, Haverhill High School did a reunion game. It was always the beginning of the year. And I went in and skated, Jon, one shift down and back. I not skated since. I just couldn't do it. Derek, when's the last time you skated?
Oh my God, it's a while. It's been a while. I was playing more street hockey than anything else. Yeah, I remember playing street hockey. We were playing in like over in Drake-It. They had the Drake-It Hockey League, which it's not even there anymore. And I remember playing in that. And I was playing out actually. I didn't want to play goalie. And half the team, the goalie left, moved, and I was back in net. Next thing you know, we're playing in the best 2 out of 3 in the championship. That was my last time I played goalie, I think. And they threw me in, and we only had 5 guys. We ended up winning 1-0. I think it was my
Wow.
I was like, that was it. I was retiring from hockey in general from after that.
You know what came up the other day, Derek? I made me think of you and Brett. We talk about this. I think I'll get my ranks correct. Is it what's the one in Saga? It's Hockey Town?
Yeah, Hockey Town.
So, John, did you ever skate in Hockey Town?
I think so. Well, actually, I'm thinking yeah, I definitely went to Saga.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, because we always talk about when there was a street hockey, it was ice and street hockey or
Yes.
floor hockey, and we'd have to stop the game because the ball would come on the ice.
Yeah.
That's
classic movements.
That still happens, by the way. I was talking to somebody who skates there. They still have to stop the game, go get the ball.
Up top?
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. Who skates there? So maybe think of it in the
last time I stepped pads, and you just said it. I threw a skate save out, and the guy stopped cold in front of me. He didn't know what I was doing. There's other guys in the butterfly style. That was probably 10 years ago, but. Yeah, I haven't played goalie since then. I've been skating out.
I'm telling you, I got hurt more times playing men's hockey, playing goalie. Because I think just that no one, and I'm not trying to knock it, but it was just like everyone was. It wasn't like people you would normally. I'd get hit underneath the neck with the puck. I get hit different spots. It's just because I think they weren't, which just wasn't organized. Like when you play organized hockey and you were just getting lambasted.
Yeah, and that's a great observation. I was just talking about that the other day, that it's harder to play in the lower level men's leagues because nobody knows how to play their position. So they're literally everywhere and always, you're tripping over everybody. You never really get to set up and move the puck because it's just like a swarm of bees everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect analogy.
My son's. I was just at my son's basketball game. He's 13. He's going to be 13 in a couple of weeks. Made me think of his basketball game. They're all just kind of going all
yeah, but they're younger. It's different. They're learning.
I know.
As you get older, it gets worse. You get hurt, and people don't realize it.
Exactly. So John, I just have a couple more questions. I want to go back. I just want to end with one more question with you, with where you are. So talk about where you're looking to go professionally. Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years professionally? You're going to still be in Alaska. What's your mission?
Yeah, good question. So, this new opportunity, this company I've been working with for the last 2 years, it's a brokerage that, it's not a traditional brokerage that they're just selling houses, buying and selling houses. They're a property management company. They're a homeowners association management company, and that's their bread and butter. And so home sales is kind of on the edge for them, right? So I've had the opportunity to go and grab a piece of all of that. And I've really, really enjoyed it, right? The pace is nonstop, and it's never the same, right? Today, I did 2 showings for rentals and 2 showings for houses, and then I built some leases, right? So and that really suits me. I don't sit down, sit still at a computer or desk very well. So this constant change of pace, I really, really enjoy. And where I'd like to take that is to continue down that path, but build something similar to my own. So next on my forecast is I'm going to take the broker's test so that I have the ability to be the broker. And, I've started some businesses before. So the key, in my opinion, is surrounding yourself with the right people, right? So, you as an individual may be an amazing, whatever it is, realtor. But if you don't have the right support people with you, you're bound to fail. So build a support structure and try to accomplish these things, whether it's in Alaska or Northwest in Washington. We just bought a house in Oak Harbor, Washington. So it's a family house over the ocean. So what we do with that, we'll see in the near future if that's where we're going to hang our hat. But one way or another, I think continuing to do real estate and capturing all these vertical markets within that vertical market is my goal.
Nice.
So John, since you're in the real estate market, and maybe someone who listens to this, how would you sell Alaska to them?
It's funny because Alaska, when people are coming this way, right? They've already made the determination that they're going to come live this Alaska lifestyle. It's a lot of calibrating their expectations in the other direction, if that makes sense. So we're talking about those shows, right? So people watch those shows. I've literally got phone calls that said, "Hey, I just watched Living Off the Grid and I want a cabin." And, but once the reality of what that is sets in, the conversation changes dramatically. So Alaska itself doesn't so much need to be sold. It's, you have to calibrate their expectations on what this market looks like. Because you guys as well know the Boston market's a crazy one. Los Angeles is crazy, and Alaska is crazy in its own separate way. So you calibrate what type of property they're going to get for their $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah. And you ever come across an Alaskan Nanook, have you?
No, I got
just in Bradford, just when he was a kid, he saw it walking around.
No, but I mean, on a serious question though, like, how is it to get used to from one extreme with the summers to the winters with the, all sunlight to, I remember the movie Al Pacino was in, what was it, Insomnia? He goes from one to the extreme. Is that difficult to get used to it is?
Yeah. It's hard. The daylight stuff is you kind of get this impression that you want to keep moving, right? So it's literally hard to slow down, and set your natural clock to something that works. It's tough in the winter because I think we're the largest consumers of calories and ice cream in Alaska because depression is it's a real thing. There's a lot of alcohol abuse. There's a lot of spousal abuse. So you can see the toll that takes on people. Growing up in New England, I'm good with winter. I'm all good with winter. I can find something to do. But the other part is you don't know when it's going to end. So I think I said to my wife, I said, April showers bring May flowers. She said, what? April showers bring more snow. So that's the winters will drag on, and that's pretty enough. But that's what I liked about New England is you could relatively set a clock. Winter's done, right?
Yeah.
The length of the season and days get pretty obnoxious. We're on the downspell now. December 21st is the shortest day of the year, and the sun comes up about 10 and cruises at about 4.
Wow. Well, but I mean, on the opposite side of the spectrum, what about the summer where you get constant daylight?
Yeah, it's chaotic. I think the sun will legitimately go down. It dips under the horizon for about a half an hour on the longest day.
Wow. I don't think I ever knew it was that extreme between the two seasons. I don't think I ever knew this. I learned something new tonight.
It's pretty brutal. So if you have some kind of mechanism to keep yourself in a good frame of mind, you're going to have a hard time.
So we like to have some fun before we end, but I want you to mention a couple of things. First of all, can you give the name of your company and the website and the contact information?
The company I work for is PacRim Properties, as in Pacific Rim, PacRim Properties. But the best way to get in touch with me is on Facebook, Jon LaPrise Real Estate. And I've been slacking, but for a long time I did a weekly video, whether real estate topic, whether it's a personal improvement topic, just something to stay engaged. And I need to get back on that ball.
Well, listen, man, if you ever want to join the Three Guys and use the Three Guys as a platform, you're always welcome, Jon. I want you to know that.
I'm proud of you guys because this is just on that same spirit, like with Arctic Attack and these other businesses, you just got to step out on the ledge, and you guys have done that, and I'm pretty excited for you.
Thank you, man. So you mentioned your wife, can you kind of give a shout out to your family as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife Angela, we've been married for 27 years. My oldest son Jordan, he's 24. He works in telecom as well. My middle son Ian. He lives in Houston, Texas. He's a technician for BMW at BMW of Houston.
Wow.
And my youngest son, he's 14. He's a freshman in high school here, so he's a knucklehead.
Any hockey players out of that group?
No, the youngest started out, and he didn't stick with it. My dad was the guy, and Brian probably remember this, hanging over the boards, right? So I said to myself, I'm not going to do that. I love my dad, but he was a little bit intense, let's say. So when my boys, got to that age that it's time to try a sport, I said, listen, you guys, you can't do nothing. You got to do something. But whatever you want to do, I'll support you. But I made the commitment bananas and push. And I think I should have pushed a little bit more because they all did like a tour in lacrosse, a tour in football, and a tour in baseball, and went back to the video games. So I should have been a little bit more intense, but we'll find the balance somewhere.
Is hockey big up there?
Yeah. We had a WCHL team that became a not AHL. What's under AHL? ECHL. So they won the cup in the ECHL one year, and then they recently went defunct. But I think Alaska was a bunch of fair weather fans. But it was fun to watch. It was fun to see.
Well, it must be weird because who they cheer for pro team? Was it just basically because it's a collective group of people coming from all parts of the country that all have their own favorite teams? Yeah,
the people that don't have any own thought, the root for Seattle.
Oh yeah, it's a new team. Man.
Sorry to hear that.
I call them the 13th man. Those fair weather.
Yeah. Right. So Jon, last thing for me, for kids that are in high school and maybe they don't know what their path is, and they obviously talented and multiple skill sets. What advice do you give those kids that are coming out of college coming out of high school and sort of looking for their way? What would you tell them?
Yeah, a great question. So when we were being raised, and I think you've probably seen this on social media, but it really resonated with me that, the message was go to college so you can get a good job, right? And, get the benefits and whatever. But, that world doesn't exist anymore. So what I've been trying to encourage my boys is, you need to learn. You need to fill yourself up with information. But it's to do that to survive. If you want to start your own business, you still need to, manage through school. You still need to educate, better yourself. So what that looks like may not be, a 4-year degree. It may be a tech school, like my second son ran with the tech school. So it's better yourself, arm yourself, and fill yourself with as much knowledge as you can, so that whatever you decide to do, that you can be successful with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Derek, I got some quick pick ones to end with him. Unless you got anything.
No, I could. If you got more quick ones, go with it.
All right. So Jon, I did in one of our episodes we had on a gentleman that was on with my wife. I don't know. It was on the. They both have kids that are on the autism spectrum, and it was just a discussion of advocacy. And the end of that episode, we did some '80s heavy metal pick ones. I'm going to try to remember all of them for you, man, because. I think my first concert was with you. So, okay. And no particular order. So concert venue, Worcester Centrum or Boston Garden, the original Boston Garden.
Oh, the original Garden.
Yeah.
Are you waiting for a different response to that one? Because I don't know how you could pair anything to the Garden at the time.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I gotta figure out because but the other side, the big bands would come to the Centrum in the Garden. Those were kind of the two.
No, I know, but I don't think the Centrum even compared to the Garden. I just don't know anything that would have. I mean, if maybe said, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the acoustics in the Garden, I think that was what.
Maybe concerts were better, and you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe you know that.
That's fair. You guys gotta take a step back and appreciate what you got, though, because as far as concert goes, everybody gives Alaska a pass. I think Metallica came up here and sold out 3 shows in 2 seconds because everybody's starving. So if you guys can go, just remember, this poor snaps up in Alaska don't have anything.
You know what? We did and I'll send it to you, Jon, if you've not seen. We did a heavy metal show. It was a YouTube episode, and the one of the kids that was on was from New Orleans, and he's like, New Orleans is another city. For some reason bands don't go to. So I'm sure there's some vertical reason. I was surprised because I feel like the Superdome, whatever it's called now, the Superdome would be a tremendous.
I thought that was a musical community, so you figured there'd be more.
Yeah. All right. So George Lynch or Mick Mars?
George Lynch.
Yeah. Man. This guy's an expert. I can't get anything by him. All right. This is going to get a little tougher as we go. A couple more. Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Good question. I like Van Hagar. I like Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, man. I'm starting to lead Hagar. I'm starting to lead Hagar. So my favorite were the rock stuff, other than the Panama, obviously the 1984 album was tremendous, and that's it'll go down in history. But their early stuff, like that late 70s stuff, I feel like was some of their better material. And I think the stuff they've not even released that. There's some things you could dive in, and we could you could probably have a whole 2 or 3 podcasts on
the dissection of Van Halen and the progression. And
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I like David Lee Roth. He was cuckoo. He was a great frontman. But I enjoyed the music a little bit more with Sammy. And I Eat 'Em and Smile. I like the stuff David Lee Roth did by himself. I mean, but yeah.
All right. Last one, man. Yeah. Yeah, since I Eat 'Em and Smile. Those videos, the donut. I'll take it. Man, we can go on and on that stuff. We're gonna do another one of those heavy metal. We'll have you on. My brother moderated it. So it was pretty
yeah.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, man. We're gonna re-release it. I'm gonna edit it and re-release it. All right. So last one, talking to music. It's gonna be actually before I do the last one. Are you still playing? We used to play. Are you playing any music? Are you still doing any of that? No. Okay.
I just play the radio. Paul's the musician. All my boys, but yeah, I just
all right.
Never got the bug.
I had that as a question. Okay, so here's my last one. Derek's allowed to answer this one too, and it's been previously asked, but I'm gonna ask it again. Here we go. Where is Ron Hextall or Grant Fuhr?
Good question. I loved Hextall's attitude, but I think Grant Fuhr was a better goalie.
Yeah, I agree with Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr came to that Edmonton team. Then he went over to Buffalo, carried Buffalo, and then I don't know. Grant Fuhr was a different style of goalie. Hextall had his form, but I don't know. Grant Fuhr was.
It's funny you bring that up. I was just talking to a buddy of mine, a guy I met up here. He was actually on the motorcycle team. He was a goalie as well. And so, he and I were both kind of stand-up style goalies, and we were just lamenting. And Swayman let one in last night. Same thing. These guys go to the butterfly and their stick comes up. And you're like, what are you doing? That's basic. And so, this butterfly style, though, it's playing the percentages. They're professional goalies. They need to keep their stick on the ice. And I can't get my head around that at all.
Yeah, it's a different style of hockey now where the goalies, they all like to go to that butterfly style and they're bigger so they can get away with it. But if not every goalie's big like that. And if you're not, you can't play that same style of hockey.
I think we can blame Dominic Hasek for that. I mean, everybody was a pretty solid style. Then he came on the scene, and everybody's like,
Hasek had his own style of goalie. I mean, he was all over the place. I mean, he made saves that I don't even know what he was doing. His body was in positions that if I had that, I'd be in the hospital.
Yeah, but I think that's to say that he said the script is out the window, right? So now,
yeah. I remember watching the game against New Jersey in the playoffs. There was Game 6. They won 1-0. And it was like 4 overtimes. And I'm like, I remember this was back in the day because I was a huge Sabres fan. I'm a huge Sabres fan. I remember listening to it on and Brian gets a chuckle out of this. I had to go to the radio outside, the terrestrial radio. And it was at night.
I'm trying to find a prop. Here we go.
It was at night.
For the YouTube.
So I was in my car because at night you could get the New Jersey station because the signals were better. And I was going in and out of the house because back in the day, it was the 90s. You couldn't, ESPN was giving you an update. But you don't have where now I could watch every goddamn hockey game I wanted to.
Right.
But back then I was trying to get into listen to the game. And then ESPN finally updated 2:00 in the morning. You see a 1-0. I'm like, oh my God, but you couldn't, I don't think anyone realizes what we had to go through back in the day to try. I joke about this. Your fathers would say, well, you don't realize what we had to go through back in the day to listen to games. But it was just weird.
The wind up radio.
Yeah. But I'm outside in the car 2:00 in the morning going back and forth, trying to listen to terrestrial radio, and get and it was coming in at all of a sudden you get a big blast. I'm like, oh, I could hear a lot. Then it would be I'd lose the signal. But it was just so fun. But yeah, he was a different style of goalie.
Yeah, for sure. I was telling you before, it was an advantage to be 4 hours behind. So I managed to get a satellite package with Nesson, right? So Nesson did the Bruins at 2 at midnight. You remember? Well, that was 8:00 for me, right? So I come home, do everything I got to do. 8:00, there's the Bruins game. So
yeah, there you go.
I had a pretty good hustle going on.
Yeah, you got a benefit of it, except for during football season. It must be a little tougher.
I watch football with breakfast, which is a little weird, but
it's not much different. I was in Vegas 3 hours ahead. It's only a difference of an hour. I thought you guys were 6, but I'm thinking of Hawaii.
Yeah, they're out there. Yeah, no.
Yeah, when I was in San Diego, same thing. Be breakfast and kickoff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Jon, hang out with us if you have a minute or two. Derek, you want to take us home?
No, you can take us home. Okay, Brian, you've been doing well.
Well, before we always say, first of all, Jon, thank you very much for sharing your journey, and whether it's a goal, I joke because my regional director, Donovan Henson, played goalie. He played. Man, if I screw up the school, he'll probably have me fired because it was either Mount St. Charles or whoever their arch rival was. So I always get it wrong.
I haven't heard that team in a while.
I need to know. I need to find out. So he'll probably listen to this and give me grief. But he was a goalie and he played. That's why. So we could do a goalie podcast. We could have you back for I was hoping my brother was going to surprise you, but his son speaking of hockey and stuff, his son had a late practice. So I was going to have him come on and surprise you. It would have been fun. But we're certainly going to have you back. And let's get out. So thank you, Jon, for your time. And I feel like I've known you've been a good dude. You and your brother, you have a great family. Your sister, and then to all our listeners, those in Kazakhstan, actually Singapore. I don't know. I looked at the stats. We have people in Southeast Asia. I mean, we're just growing.
Yeah, it's not people in India. I don't know if Ravi was passing the word around.
Oh, our friend Ravi, he could be traveling, but. And then Brett, I know Brett's been absent for a little bit. He's trying to catch up on some personal stuff. We're all busy, but I know he's got some stuff going on. The madness of all the hiring frenzy that's going on. He's in the middle of that. But hopefully everyone's enjoyed our Halloween episode. Probably been out by that time this comes out for a couple of weeks. And then this Veterans Day, as we salute. And I told Derek I wanted to throw out, obviously, Shannon Sargent, which Jon, my brother-in-law. I don't know if you've met my brother-in-law, Tom Coppin. He was in the Army and in the Marines. Man, I'm going to figure something. I'm going to get all kinds of grief. My Steve Sweeney, he was in a tank division. He served in the military. Obviously, my grandfather, Clifford Clark, was in the Army Air Force in World War II. So my Uncle Roger. I can go down the list and just throw out random names that people probably won't know. But we're so blessed to have so many people like you, Jon, that represent us and fought for us. Not really fight, but just sacrificed for us. And we'll be eternally grateful for that. So, Jon, hang out for a bit. So thank you again, everybody, for taking a listen to our special episode. Happy Thanksgiving when this comes out. Scary enough to even say, but hopefully when it stays safe. And enjoy the rest of your evening.